Hello and welcome to the show. For this week's FailRace versus the community, we were going short course racing with a selection of D-Class cars. I first went at one of the, not quite the mini layout of Long Beach, but one of the shorter layouts of Long Beach. The mini layout has the roundabouts in, and that's just asking for a traffic jam. This one, as we head down to the new turn 1, the Javelin, we are following, made the most of his opportunities, kind of going through the middle of a 3 wide there to pick up some positions. An Escort coming with him from down towards the back of the field here. Actually, relatively calm beginning to the race. It wouldn't last massively long. However, relatively calm so far. The Javelin outdrags a 1-3-1. This circuit, while it is a shorter layout, is still got some fairly sizable straights for cars to worry about. The Escalade up on 2 wheels across the curb. Unfortunately, yeah, the piece of quiet wouldn't last massively long. A kerfuffle at the final corner, not helped by me, and somebody bouncing into a tyre bundle and causing all sorts of traffic jams would lead to a fair few cars broken and having to take the pit stop. So the field did get spread out quite a lot quite quickly. Nevertheless, there was still some close racing going on at this stage. The Williams Clio trying to find ways past and would get around the outside of the Cadillac Escalade. The Escalade, though, surprisingly good through the corners. Now, I was expecting it to be huge amounts of straight line speed in that Cadillac. Not the case. It was obviously a lot more of a handling build on that vehicle because it was faster through the corners than the Williams Clio and then got left down the straights. I know that is a weird thing, however, that is the way it's working. You can see as we come into the turn 1 here, the Escalade much faster through there. The Williams Clio does also struggle for traction a little bit, being front-wheel drive, but there we go. Further back, we had a little 595 Bath catching up to a squabbling pair of cars ahead. A 131 was fighting against the Camaro. Camaro not quite able to make a pass stick, and as we head into the final corner, the Camaro does cover the inside a little bit, but has no answer for the acceleration of that little Fiat. While it doesn't have a huge amount of power, it certainly won't have a huge amount of power in D-Class. It weighs so little that the acceleration is fantastic. The problem is, it is going to run out of straight line speed, and even on a relatively short circuit like this one, it was struggling a tad. The Camaro would come firing back down the inside, couldn't get it stopped though. Be a great cutback from the 595 to regain that position there. But yeah, an interesting layout this one was proving to be. I was leading the way. I'd been fortunate with a high grid spot and managing to stay out of trouble mostly. We were, yeah, leading the way. Now, the Javelin had taken damage, had to pit and come out behind me. However, was staying right there. You can see the Vandura, that was in second place. I was a fair way away. I was actually pulling away from the chasing pack. The Javelin, though, was keeping up. So we decided to have our own little race between first and a lap down, I think 16th or 17th place or something. These two were remarkably even, though, in terms of lap speed. As, yeah, having lapped the Javelin, he then could not find a way back past me because, while the country boat is not very good through the corners, it is so fast down the straights. It gets great drive off of the turns as well, thanks to some huge rear tyres. They might be standard compound tyres, but they are massive. Decent amount of power. Meant that it was a really difficult car to get past. Further back, the Vandura was doing a remarkable job of holding on to second place, trying to fend off an Escort and a Clio. Williams, the Alpine, is another car that got damaged, had to take to the pits, but come back out around cars that it was relatively competitive with. The Renault there, the Escort trying to have a go at the inside of the Vandura. The problem is, he can't get the pass done, and Vandura's just going to hug the inside, or admittedly, say hug the inside, then dives a bit too wide. Escort gets stuck out way too wide. The Williams Clio is in there as well, try to find ways past. Again, much like they were having with my Country Squire up the front, the Vandura was very difficult to pass. It was quicker in a straight line than the vehicles. It was very, see how far away it's got by the time we come down towards turn 1. The Escort is going to close up massively through the corners, and well, we'll try to if the Williams Clio doesn't get a big dive up the inside. Almost works for the Renault. Can't quite carry the speed, doesn't quite carry the speed through that first corner. And again, the Escort's closing some more, but then we come to another one of these straights, and the Vandura is just going to pull that way, and it's just a little too far away for the Escort to have a dive into the corners. Further back, and we had a Civic trying to make a move on an RX-7. these cars were probably sort of the last of the vehicles that were vaguely close together on track. There was a fair bit of the field spreading out. The Honda is a very, very good run through the first corner. The Mazda, well, you know they're close when the replay camera doesn't want to even show the car ahead. Mazda managing to cut across to the inside, just about fending off from that Honda, and I think the RX-7 did have a little bit more straight line speed down here. You can see in the background the 595. His progress through the field would kind of run out of steam a little bit by the time it came to trying to catch up to these cars in the Civic. A little bit too far back to be able to do anything against the RX-7 through these closing corners. For me, at the front, the sort of fake battle for first was still ongoing. It was still pretty damn good fun. The Country Squire was, is pulling away from the battle for second, despite our big old fight going on here. It would prove to be a very, very good car around this circuit. A big slide up towards the final corner once more. I park the boat on the inside. The Javelin has the grip to get around the outside, but never has the acceleration off of the corner, which means I will both take actual victory of the race and I would fend off and keep the Javelin a lap down in all of that. The battle for second was also ongoing right until the end. The Alpine dropped back from this lot. The Escort still could not find a way past that Van Der, and the Clio lost a little bit of time to the pair of them as well as he head into the very final corner. Of course, the Van Der is terrible through this section. The Van Der is very, very difficult to get through this section, but the Escort wasn't really close enough to have a dive, while the GMC does run wide on the exit there. The Ford has an opportunity. Couldn't quite, they couldn't make the most of it. He made the most of it that he could, but wouldn't be able to outdrag the Van Der. The Van Der claiming second, the Escort in third. An interesting podium we had. A Country Boat, a Van Der, and a Ford Escort. Very peculiar, but there we go. Race number 2, and we head to the Rio Mini circuit, the smallest circuit that we would travel to. Unfortunately, disaster would strike further back, as I don't know what position it was, sort of 6th or 7th, managed to get themselves into trouble on the straight and caused all sorts of chaos, including an Isetta that went tumbling around in the background. This front lot making it through relatively well, although the limo getting a slight tag from somebody, and both of them going very, very sideways. Indeed, it would be a Ram Runner that would be up into second place, while the Mini would get the best start of the lot of them and able to try and break away a little bit at the front. There's a big crush coming in towards the final hairpin. It is a very, very tight circuit, this one. It is a very, very mean circuit around here. The Ram Runner, decent straight line speed, able to make the most of this sort of main start finish straight, but a bit of a handful, as you can imagine, through the corners. Now, the limo was proving to be an interesting choice of car. In fact, the limos aren't actually as slow as you might think, and certainly this one here was proving to be a relatively fast car, although he was surrounded by other relatively fast cars as well. The Escalade a bit better suited to this track. There was a Volvo in there, the Chevrolet muscle car. There's plenty of vehicles around this group trying to find a way past everyone. A very fast Honda Civic was in the mix as well. Unfortunately for the poor Volvo, everyone just gets a little bit concertina together, and the tiniest of taps is all it takes to see the Volvo ping off into a tyre bundle. But the more that these guys fought, the more that it helped out me. You see, I'd been involved I was at the very back of the grid, and I had nowhere to go to avoid the roadblock. While my car was not damaged in any way whatsoever, I'd lost a huge amount of time on the opening lap. Thankfully, my Country Squire was perfectly suited to this circuit. It was one of the fastest, if not the fastest car around here. So I caught up to this big old squabbling group pretty damn quickly, and making the most of my straight line speed, could easily outdrag the Tiger. I was trying to fend off from the Opel Kadett. He was a little bit better on the brakes and was able to get the inside line. Of course, these cars much, much better through the corners than I am. However, none of them have the acceleration that the Ford has, although I am a little bit too wide out in the wall trying to carry that quarter speed. The Tiger busy fighting back on the outside, but isn't quite going to have the speed to make that one stick. I wanted to try and get up the inside of the Kadett. He does a good job of covering that inside line. Not that it's going to massively matter, because we've seen how quick the Country Squire is off of the final corner. The Escalade is having a sniff up the inside of the limo. Come running down towards turn 1 once more. The Kadett has to go very, very defensive. While it doesn't show it on the replay, the Alpine was lagging all over the place, made things a little bit difficult for us. But yeah, I couldn't quite get the move done there, and I continued to fight this group, and this group would stay together for a large portion of the race. The Ram Runner became the sort of cork in the bottle, if you like. Civic managing to make its way past to try and chase after the top three. The Ram Runner now trying to fend off from a limo and a Cadillac Escalade, and they were going 3 wide. And you put these cars this wide, 3 wide with these size cars, and that just fills up the entire track. It's an incredibly ridiculous battle, especially when you have the likes of the Alpine thrown into the mix, the Cadet thrown in, and the Civics and so on. It's an interesting sight. The limo did manage to work his way past the Ram Runner. The Dodge thinking about having a go up the inside, not quite able to make it stick into the final corner. And the problem, the difficulty that every cars were having, the Ram Runner was very fast down the straights. It was very quick out of the hairpin. You see him now going on the attack against the limo. So a long way around the outside there, not quite able to make that one work, as we're all busy concertinaing and all busy fighting once more through here. I'm pretty sure we were 3 wide in the background. My country boat on the outside of a 3 wide, managing to try and make up some position. I think I did not quite get them. There's no grip out there for the poor country boat. And of course, the more that we started fighting behind, the sort of more of a reprieve that the Ram Runner got. He had a lap or so to not have to worry. But back towards the front, and things were much calmer. The Mini was leading the way. The gap was remaining fairly stable back to second and third. This Jeep Wagoneer and Fiat 131 that were busy fighting on their own. Well, I say fighting on their own. We're running close together. The Jeep a little bit too fast in a straight line for the Abarth to do too much about. I had just about worked my way through the utter mayhem that was this pack. The limo had managed to escape away at the front. The Escalade had got past. It was now my turn to try and get a move done on the Ram Runner. It was a long way round, a little bit scary around the outside. However, I would get to that all-important inside line at the hairpin. And unlike most of the cars that had been racing it, my Ford was one of the few vehicles faster, or certainly as fast as the Ram Runner down this start-finish straight. So while I left a nice big open door on the inside for the Cadet to try and follow through, it didn't have anywhere near the acceleration to be able to compete with the Ram, and it would stay stuck behind, although not for too long, as the Ram has a huge two-wheeled moment across the curb. It was kind of inevitable at some point that was going to go. There's a massive, massive two-wheeled moment, and the Ram would lose 2 or 3 places from that alone. At the front, and the Mini would go on to take victory. Was being closed down by the Jeep and the Abarth towards the end of the race, but having got to the lead so early on and not have to fight any of the Rams, the limos and so on, just, having that clean air, very, very helpful indeed. The Wagoneer claiming second ahead of the Abarth in third, the Civic in fourth, ahead of the limo in fifth. Sixth place, though, would go down to the wire, with the Country Squire trying to find a way past the Escalade. We were both catching the limo, but just ran out of laps to do anything about it. The Escalade gets wide out of the final turn. I think it might have even brushed the wall. The superior acceleration of the Country Squire would get me to the inside, and we could just out-drag him as we came across the start-finish line there. I had one chance to get past the Escalade as we ran out of laps, and I managed to just take it. The Ford was really bloody good. Really good around this track. That wasn't the closest finish of all, though. The battle for 16th place, it had raged for, I think, a large part of the race between a Vauxhall Corsa and an AE86, miles off the rest of the field. I don't know if they've been damaged or whether they've just been slowed down a huge amount by the opening kerfuffle. However, the Toyota is to the inside at the final corner, just about squeaks his nose past, but you can sometimes get a much better line on the, you can better drive on the outside, I should say, as they both drag race towards the line, because the Toyota was quite squeezed to the apex of that corner. You can't get a huge run off of the turn. However, when we come to the photo finish, it would go to the Toyota. The position would go, but only just. It is so very, very close between these two vehicles. Now, as we know with Forza, it is when the front wheels cross the line, that is when the car's counted as finishing. So we can see there, the Toyota just ahead, but we are already talking a few millimetres there between the pair of them. So a little bit of a kerfuffle at the start. However, the rest of that race was absolutely fantastic. Our third and final race would go to the Catalunya school circuit as we all get off and underway. Again, the game being relatively kind to the large heavyweights. My Country Squire towards the front. The Ram Runner was up in second place. This Corsa keen to make a move on an Eagle Tan, although at Lancia 037 would fire up the inside of the pair of them, making it 3 wide. Civic keen to try and make up positions as well. The Ram really struggling for grip, as you can imagine, around this circuit. My Country Squire up into second. The Dodge is up on 2 wheels once more and taking a trip across the grass. There's a Porsche going for a bit of a spin on the inside as everyone's trying to fit down the very narrow circuit. Up ahead, the Deluxe got a big 2-wheeled moment that slowed me down, that in turn slowed the chasing pack behind down. The Corsa would lose out a position to that Lancia. It was already a pretty damn big train going on at the front of this field. The Ram, well, it had a couple of warnings, and it was kind of inevitable what might end up happening to this big beast. And sure enough, it was out of the final corner. Unfortunately, poor Opel Cadet having to try and take avoiding action across the gravel. The Ram had tried his best to hold on, but this circuit was, well, it's one of the longest circuits. I think it is perhaps the longest circuit that we went to. This is almost all corners around here, and the big heavyweights were struggling, especially a very top-heavy Ram. Always likely to to be going for a tumble. Yeah, the other bigger, heavier cars were struggling. The Mustang Boss here coming under fire from the Renault Alpine is all the way around the outside. That's a long way to go around the outside, but the Alpine's got the move done before they even get towards the next corner. Then there's a 131, a Bath fires up the inside of the Mustang as well. My Country Squire was not enjoying this particular circuit too much either. The Alpine was having its fair few issues with the curbs as well. Nasty curbs here at Catalunya. As I said, this was not a track that suited the Country Squire. While it had been the fastest at Long Beach, I think it got the second fastest lap in the end at Rio, it was not good whatsoever at Rio, not Rio, at Catalunya, apologise. The Civic was going to try and get around the outside. It actually came from a really long way back after even a little bit of a bump. He still can carry so much more corner speed than I can. There's just nothing I can do about it in the Country Squire. I can defend as much as I like, but when your opposition has got that much more grip, he can just place the car exactly where he wants, and they can see through this long corner. There is nothing I can do. The Vauxhall is catching through that turn as well, although this is the one brief pause that I get from the onslaught, because the Country Squire is quite quick down the start-finish straight, but then we're straight back into the corners, and I have to hug the inside. Now, it wouldn't be long before a mighty train of cars would form. You see, I was holding up the Corsa that in turn backed the field up into a limo. Now, the limo wasn't particularly quick around this circuit either, but it was quick enough and big enough to make it very difficult for anybody to get past. So, this giant train of fighting cars would emerge, all kind of starting from me here. The Abarth, a Porsche, a Civic were all involved. The Alpines up ahead, an MX-5 and Cortina are busy fighting. Yeah, it was rather crowded on this track, as the Abarth has found himself out relatively wide as we head down towards the first corner, but good enough straight line speed. In fact, the Civic very slow down the straights, not able to do too much. It was, yeah, all getting a little bit interesting through here. The limo was trying to have a go up the inside of the horse, the Cortina trying to go around the outside. The problem is, if it was just a single car trying to overtake the limo, or a single car trying to overtake me, as the Civic would find himself spun on the curbs. If it wasn't rolling, cars were spinning on the curbs. Yeah, if it was a single car trying to make an overtake, then it would be okay, it'd be relatively easy. The problem was, the Corsa can't go too aggressive trying to pass me, otherwise he's going to get passed by the limo. The limo can't go too aggressive on the Corsa because he get passed by the train of cars behind him, and each of them have got to be wary of the vehicles around them, so you could end up in this huge stalemate. The MX-5 would manage to find himself down the inside into turn 1. The Cortina's trying to go the long way round. The problem in doing that is he's going to have 3 cars fire themselves up the inside. And sure enough, he loses one position. He will be on the inside, though, for the next turn. The Lancia 037 also got into trouble on that outside of turn 1, got dumped back into the mighty train, and now it's solid 2 wide, almost 3 wide. The Porsche is having a look up the inside. It's not going to fit down that gap. The Vauxhall's on the outside. The Lancia's on the outside, getting passed by about 3 cars. Pretty sure on this, one of the narrowest tracks you'll find, there were 4 wide. Further back, the train just goes on and on and on. The limo's found his way past the corner. The MX-5, having finally got free of the limo, was going after my Country Squire, but again, I was going to defend as much as I possibly could. The Corsa managing to just about make his way to the inside of the limo. There's a little bit of bumper. I'll be honest, there was a lot of bumping. In fact, a lot of paint was not on the car that it originally belonged to around this. However, they've all come around the first corner, and the Vauxhall's under threat again from that limo. The Porsche's on the outside. the Porsche in the end runs out of grip, and still they fight, and they fight on. This Scion did not have a particularly good start to the race, came from a long way back, but sure enough, the big old car train that was going on around the track would bring all sorts of vehicles up into contention. I don't know what on earth bumping went on up ahead that would see some cars off across the curbs around the other side, having to take a little bit of avoiding action from something up ahead. It was absolutely ridiculous. Quite frankly, the mid-pack in this race, it was so horrendously busy. A huge amount of fun. And yeah, there was a fair bit of paint swapping going on, but not too many cars came into a huge amount of trouble as they're still busy looking for ways past that limo. The Scion looking for a way to get past the bar there. The Civic that had been very, very quick was now stuck in the midst of this. Yeah, it's so tough making progress when there are this many cars stuck in traffic. You can see the gaps were sort of starting to form between the cars in this group, and then it takes a lap, and then everybody's back to being bunched up once more. Porsche trying around the outside limo, not going to work. Scion's got the Abarth, as has the Civic through that twisty corners. At the front, and things were very boring for the Escort. Got to the lead relatively quickly and was about 2 seconds a lap quicker than everybody else here. The Escort was phenomenally fast around this circuit. Admittedly, everybody else was stuck in a giant limo train, so quite how fast they could have gone if they weren't side by side for the entire lap, we don't know. But yeah, I think even if they weren't, the Escort was probably going to be too much of a tall order to overtake. A Ford Deluxe Coupe would find itself in second, a great drive to end up there. I couldn't hold on to third, the MX-5 would claim third. This group continued fighting all the way until the very end. There was yeah, a little bit of an impatient bump towards the very, very final lap. But on the most part, yeah, everyone making it around the Civic. I think got in a little bit of trouble on the curbs. This Lancia carrying mega quarter speed, but there's just nowhere to go. You get boxed in. I think it gave the Civic a little bit of a bump. Cortina managing to beat the Civic. The Lancia's got nowhere to go. Would have to settle for the position there. It was, yeah, absolutely crazy. We've never seen a car train quite like that one. I don't think we ever. Not for as long either. It just went on for almost 3/4 of the race there. The difficulties of trying to get past a limo that's relatively competitive and my country squire that can be made very, very wide. In the end, I actually had to break away a little bit from it when they all started really trying to fight each other and get past the limo. It actually gave me a little bit of a reprieve, and I could get away down the road. But yeah, it was incredibly eventful, incredibly exciting to be a part of that massive car train. That, though, is going to be it for this video. The next versus the community is going to be on Thursday, the 11th of May. We're going to be on Forza Horizon 3. Now, at the time I'm recording this, I don't quite know what we're going to have in the Hot Wheels expansion, quite how stuff is going to work. We are going to be doing something with the Hot Wheels expansion. I will sort of post updates when I know exactly on the forum post, so you know what to build cars for, etc. But yeah, we're going to be playing around with the Hot Wheels stuff. So if you want to sign up and take part in that, then you can go to our forums. There will be a link in the description. Find the FailRace versus the community section, and you can sign up in there. However, that's going to be it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.